happened to Snoop Dogg that night? You won't believe it. What started as a chill evening turned into something Snoop will never forget, and once you hear the full story, you won't forget it either. Stick around till the end, and hey, hit that subscribe button and tell us where you're watching from. It was a warm Los Angeles night, the kind that buzzes with promise. Snoop was leaned back in the soft leather of his Cadillac Escalade, the city humming around him like a low-key beat. Everything was lined up for a night of celebration. The new album was out, the reviews were fire, and his day ones were waiting to toast with him. His phone lit up. It was Jason, his manager, his brother, his friend for years. "We outside the restaurant, man. Can't wait for this spot you picked." Snoop smiled. "Hold tight," he texted back. "I'm pulling up now." These were his people. They'd been there through everything, the all-night sessions, the endless tours, the grind. Tonight was about unwinding, showing love, and just enjoying each other's company. He rolled up to the front of Eminence Dining, one of those sleek, exclusive joints with polished glass, perfect lighting, and a vibe that whispered money. He stepped out, clean suit, smooth energy, and spotted his crew, Jason, Tina, and two rising stars from his label. "Snoop Dogg in the building," Jason said, pulling him in for a hug as everyone cracked up, trading jokes and smiles on the way to the entrance. Inside, it was all class, chandeliers glowing, dark wood tables gleaming, and jazz flowing through the air like butter. The staff moved like they'd been choreographed. Snoop wasn't new to luxury, but even he could feel how tight this place was run. He walked up to the hostess stand, hit her with that signature Snoop smile. "Reservation for Dog. Party of 6. She looked down at the screen, paused for a beat, just long enough to notice. Her face shifted, just a little. "One moment, sir." Tina leaned in and whispered, "She looked at us like we didn't belong here." Snoop shrugged, keeping it cool. "Probably just checking. You know how these places are." A few minutes passed. Then the hostess came back, colder than before. "I'm sorry, Mr. Dogg, but it seems there's been an error. We don't have your reservation." Just like that, the vibe dropped. Jason crossed his arms, frowning. "That can't be right. We confirmed it this morning." She avoided eye contact. "Unfortunately, we're fully booked tonight." Tina wasn't having it. "Fully booked? We just saw empty tables on the way in. What's really going on?" The hostess forced a smile. "Those are reserved for other guests." The tension was thick now. Snoop kept his calm, but inside, he felt that old fire start to rise. "Look, I get it. Mistakes happen. But we booked this weeks ago. Can you double check?" Before she could answer, a man in a sharp suit came out from the back, clearly someone in charge. "Is there a problem?" he asked, already knowing the answer. Snoop turned to him, calm but firm. "Yeah. Apparently, our reservation just vanished." "Want to explain how that happened?" The man gave a tight, fake smile. "I apologize for the confusion, Mr. Dogg, but we have to stick to our reservation policy. We're at capacity." Jason stepped forward, not bothering to hide his frustration. "You're seriously turning away Snoop Dogg? Do you even know who this man is?" The manager didn't flinch. "We treat all our guests equally here." Now people in the restaurant were starting to whisper. Phones were out. Everyone recognized him. The humiliation hit hard. Snoop felt it. This wasn't about a table. It was about something else. Something uglier. "Let's go," he said quietly. "Snoop," Tina started. "I said let's go." The group followed him out, silent, the night suddenly colder than before. The energy was gone. The city felt different. Back in the car, no one said a word for a minute. Then Tina broke the silence. "This isn't right. We can't just let them get away with it." Snoop nodded slowly, his jaw tight. "Oh, we won't. Trust me. We won't." The Escalade pulled away from the glow of Eminence Dining, back into the city, where the real lights shine. Snoop stared out the window, not just thinking about dinner, but about everything he stood for, and everything still left to fight for. This wasn't just about being a celebrity. It was about being black in a world that still quietly draws lines around where you do, and don't, belong. By the time they dropped Tina off, the silence in the car had turned heavy. Just before she stepped out, she looked at Snoop and said, "You know what you have to do." Her words echoed long after the door closed. When Snoop finally got home, the quiet hit him like a wave. His phone wouldn't stop buzzing, texts from friends, tagged posts, DMs, notifications from fans who had already caught wind of what happened. He sat down, stared at the screen, and let the anger settle into something sharper, resolve. This couldn't slide. Not for him. Not for Jason. Not for Tina. Not for anyone who had ever been made to feel less than. He opened the camera app and hit record. "Tonight," he said, his voice steady but charged, "something happened that I can't ignore." As he spoke, the weight of the night poured out. This wasn't just about a fancy restaurant. It was about a lifetime of being told where he didn't belong. About the small humiliations. The subtle exclusions. The moments that leave scars no one sees. When he finished, he posted the video with one caption: "It's time for change." There was no going back. The next morning, Snoop woke up to a phone that wouldn't stop buzzing. His video had exploded overnight. Friends, fans, even strangers had flooded his comments with messages of support, outrage, and shared pain. Lying in bed, he scrolled through the replies, each one bringing the night before into sharper focus. This is why we can't stay quiet. They think they can treat us like this just because we're black. Some told their own stories. Being turned away. Being ignored. Being made to feel invisible in stores, restaurants, and public spaces just because of the color of their skin. The words were raw. The hurt was real. And Snoop could feel it all because he'd lived it too. Many times. By midday, his video had gone viral. Every platform was sharing it. News outlets picked it up. And Eminence Dining? Their name was now trending for all the wrong reasons. Their Instagram was flooded with angry comments, one-star reviews, and demands for accountability. This wasn't just backlash. It was a reckoning. Jason called, his voice a mix of fire and disbelief. "Bro, you seen this? Your video is everywhere. People are pissed. Like, boycott levels of pissed." Snoop rubbed his neck, still trying to take it all in. "Yeah. People are sharing their own stories. It's bigger than me now." "Exactly," Jason said. "This ain't just about last night. It's about every night we got disrespected, turned away, made to feel like we don't belong. This is our moment. We gotta do something." Snoop stared out the window. The city was alive like always, but today, it felt different. There was something rumbling beneath the surface. A collective fire. "You're right," he said. "But it can't just be about calling them out. We gotta build something real. Something they can't ignore." "Say the word," Jason said. "I'm all in." That afternoon, Tina showed up at his place, eyes full of that same fire. "You've seen the comments. People are fed up. We can't let this moment fade out." "I know," Snoop said, motioning for her to sit. "Jason's already talking boycotts and rallies." Tina shook her head. "Forget boycotts. Forget protests. We've done that. And yeah, it matters, but what if we did something different? What if we flipped the script completely?" Snoop raised an eyebrow. "Like what?" She leaned in. "A dinner. But not just any dinner. A night that celebrates us. Our people. Our culture. Our music. Our food. We bring the best chefs, the best artists, and create something that says, we don't need a seat at their table. We've got our own. She paused. Call it a table for all. The phrase hung in the room like a light had just been turned on. Snoop nodded, smiling slowly. Yeah, I like that. For the next hour, they mapped it out, not just a dinner, but a movement. A cultural reset. Not a reaction, but a revolution. This wasn't just going to be a dinner, it was going to be a statement. A celebration of everything that restaurant tried to deny them. As Tina rattled off names of chefs and venues, Snoop's mind was already running ahead. This couldn't just be a one-night event, it had to be something lasting. Something real. Something that could inspire others to do the same in their own cities. And even before the first table was set, the word was out. Tina's post blew up. Thousands of shares. People tagging their favorite chefs, musicians, artists. The energy was electric. Folks weren't just hungry for food, they were hungry for a space where they could be seen, be heard, be celebrated. Jason called again, barely able to contain himself. Man, I just saw Tina's post, it's wildfire. Chefs are reaching out, artists want to donate their work, musicians offering to perform, it's happening. Snoop grinned, his chest full. Good. Let's show the world what we're about. But not everyone was cheering. That night, Eminence Dining released a statement. The usual corporate fluff, misunderstanding, commitment to diversity, and the classic we apologize for any inconvenience. But it rang hollow. People saw right through it. The backlash got louder. Tina sent Snoop the screenshot of the statement with just 3 words. They're scared. Good. Snoop stared at the message for a while. Let it sink in. Yeah. They were scared, and they should be. Because this wasn't about one reservation that got lost. It was about years, decades, of quiet, calculated exclusion. A society built on silent rules about who gets to belong and who doesn't. He put the phone down and stared out the window. A part of him wanted to rage. To burn it all down. But the wiser part, the part that's seen too much, knew better. This wasn't just about destruction. It was about building something better. The next morning, Snoop sat at his kitchen table, coffee in hand, staring at a blank notebook. But his mind wasn't blank. It was on fire. Tina's phrase, a table for all, it echoed in his head. It didn't feel like a catchy title anymore. It felt like a mission. This wasn't just about clapping back. It was about rewriting the rules. Creating a space where everyone, no matter their background, could feel valued and celebrated. As he jotted down ideas, his phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Messages. Emails. Comments. Everyone wanted in. Everyone wanted to help. By noon, Tina burst in with her laptop under one arm and an energy drink in the other. No small talk. She got straight to it. I've been talking to chefs, she said, sitting up at the dining table. They're not just in for cooking, they want to help with the vibe, the promo, the look, the whole thing. Snoop leaned back, a proud smile creeping in. That's what I'm talking about. This ain't just food, it's culture. It's power. It's us, showing what happens when we move as one. The next few hours were a creative storm. Tina had musicians ready to go. Snoop tapped into his deep network of artists and visionaries. Piece by piece, the picture started coming together, a night to celebrate not just black culture, but the diversity and heartbeat of Los Angeles itself. By mid-afternoon, Jason rolled in, energy bouncing off the walls. Yo! We've got some big names checking in. Couple downtown venues want in. But we gotta move fast. This thing's blowing up. Snoop raised an eyebrow. Big names? Like who? Jason just grinned. Let's just say, names that'll get people talking. That evening, the 3 of them stayed up late, hashing out the details. They chose a raw, industrial warehouse downtown. No frills. No crystal chandeliers. But that's what made it perfect, a blank canvas for a powerful message. This ain't just a dinner, Snoop said, looking around the room. It's a statement. We're not asking for a seat anymore. We're building our own damn table. Tina nodded. And we're doing it our way. By the time Jason left, the blueprint was clear. They had the venue, the chefs, the performers, the vision. Now they just had to bring it to life. The following days were a whirlwind. Tina and Jason worked around the clock on logistics. Snoop used his platform to speak from the heart. Every post, every video was filled with messages about community, dignity, and ownership. The reaction? Overwhelming. People didn't just support the idea, they felt it. They saw themselves in it. And more importantly, they showed up. Among all the stories that poured in after Snoop's video, one stuck with him. A young woman named Annika shared how she and her family had been turned away from a restaurant despite having a reservation. She described the sting of humiliation, standing outside while people stared, and the quiet heartbreak of walking away knowing there was nothing they could do. During one of their late-night planning sessions, Snoop read her words aloud to Tina and Jason. His voice was steady, but heavy. This is why we're doing this, he said. It's not just about us. It's about all of them. The night before the event, the warehouse buzzed with life. Chefs unpacked crates of ingredients, setting up pop-up kitchens along the walls. Long rows of tables, draped in crisp white linens and decorated with simple flowers, stretched across the space. Above them, string lights hung from the rafters, casting a soft, golden glow. On a small stage in the back, musicians ran sound checks, their melodies filling the room with warmth. Snoop stood in the center of it all, just taking it in. This was the dream, a space that felt elegant but real, welcoming and full of soul. Jason walked up beside him, hands on his hips, looking around. Man, this is something else, he said. You think they're ready for this? Snoop smiled, eyes locked on the moment. They ain't ready. But they're about to be. Tina appeared, clipboard in hand, her energy focused and fierce. Everything's on track, she said. Chefs are prepped, performers are set, and we've got a crew here to film the whole thing. Good, Snoop replied. This ain't just about tonight. We need the world to see what we're building. Before heading home, he stepped outside. The night air was cool, a contrast to the hustle inside. He looked up at the stars, thinking of all the people who had sent messages, who had shared their own pain, their own versions of what happened to him. This was for them. For every family turned away. For every kid followed around a store. For every person made to feel like they didn't belong. This wasn't just a dinner. It was a revolution. The night had arrived. That bare industrial warehouse in downtown LA had been transformed into something radiant. The string lights overhead shimmered. White linen stretched across tables lined with flowers and candles. The smells, a mix of spices, smoke, herbs, blended into one perfect symphony of culture and flavor. Guests began arriving, one by one, greeted personally by Snoop, Tina, and Jason. Every handshake, every hug, every thank you for being here felt sincere, because it was. Some were celebrities. Others were activists, chefs, artists. And many were everyday people who had simply felt the message and shown up. Different stories, different faces, but the same experience. Being shut out. Overlooked. Diminished in places they should have felt welcome. But not tonight. Tonight, they were seen. The room crackled with life. People mingled, laughed, hugged, posed for photos in front of murals and art installations. Along the walls, powerful artworks told stories of Black joy, resistance, and identity, all donated by local artists who wanted to be part of this moment. Snoop stood near the entrance, his suit sharp, his expression calm but full of pride. Jason handed him a glass of wine and nodded toward the buzzing room. You see this, he said. This is what it's all about. Snoop looked around slowly, eyes settling on a group of teens standing in awe of a huge painting. Yeah, this is bigger than us, he said. Look at all these people. This is real. At the far end, the small stage was alive. Musicians played smooth jazz and Afrobeat, followed by a spoken word artist who brought the crowd to silence with her poem on belonging. Even a comedian jumped in, adding levity without losing the message. Every act was intentional, diverse, joyful, bold. Tina eventually stepped up to the mic, her crimson dress flowing as she crossed the stage. Her voice cut through the room, confident, passionate, and warm. Good evening, everyone. Tonight isn't just about food. It's about truth, about joy, about identity, about community. This isn't just a table, it's a movement. The applause thundered through the warehouse. Snoop watched from the side, heart full. Tina had done what she always did, channeled everything into one perfect moment. Then came the food. Chefs emerged from their stations, bringing out dish after dish, not just meals, but memories, heritage, culture. Nigerian jollof rice, Jamaican jerk chicken, Southern collard greens, Haitian griot. Vegan takes on traditional favorites. Each dish told a story. Each plate was a symbol. And everyone at that table, famous or not, was treated like family. Every table that night told its own story. Guests marveled at the flavors, savoring each bite like it carried generations of history, and it did. Between the plates, there were stories, laughter, healing. And as Snoop moved through the crowd, table to table, he didn't just shake hands, he listened. At one table, an older man leaned forward, his voice thick with emotion. Decades ago, he said, I was refused service at a diner just because of my skin. But tonight, this feels like healing. Like we're finally being seen. At another table, a young woman admitted she'd almost stayed home. I wasn't sure if I'd belong here, she confessed. But now, being here, it's like I finally do. Snoop heard every word, and they hit deep. This was exactly what he had dreamed of. A space where people didn't have to shrink, or explain, or pretend. A space where they could be fully themselves, seen, valued, celebrated. As the night carried on, the performances began. A spoken word artist stepped up first. Her voice cut through the room, raw, powerful, and unflinching. She spoke of pain, of resistance, of strength in the face of racism. And the room hung on every syllable. When she finished, the applause shook the walls. Then came a jazz band, filling the air with a sound that was smooth, soulful, alive. The room moved with the rhythm, heads nodding, feet tapping, hearts full. Tina found Snoop at a table near the back, her face glowing with pride. Can you believe this? She asked, looking around in disbelief. We actually did it. Snoop nodded, eyes scanning the crowd, the conversations, the joy, the energy. Yeah, he said. We did. And this is just the beginning. Jason arrived, holding a bottle of champagne, his grin wider than ever. I say we toast to that, to the beginning of something bigger than all of us. They clinked glasses. The sound disappeared into the hum of laughter and conversation echoing through the room. For the first time in a long time, Snoop felt something deeper than success. Not for his music, not for his brand, but for creating something that mattered. Then came the moment everyone had been waiting for. Snoop stepped onto the stage. The crowd fell silent. He stood there for a second, letting it all sink in, the faces, the atmosphere, the purpose. Tonight, he began, his voice calm but filled with conviction. We proved something. We proved that we don't need anyone's approval to know our worth. We don't need their tables to feel like we belong. He paused, scanning the room. Because we built our own. And let me tell you, this table, it's for everybody. The applause was explosive. People stood. They cheered. Some cried. The room pulsed with pride. Snoop raised his hand to quiet the crowd. "But this ain't just about one night," he continued. "This is about changing the game. It's about making sure that no one, no matter where they come from or what they look like, ever feels like they don't belong. And let me be clear, we're just getting started." The cheers came again, louder this time, a wave of energy washing over the entire room. And as Snoop stepped off the stage, his heart pounded. Not from nerves, but from resolve. He knew this was just chapter 1. As the night drew to a close, guests lingered. No one wanted to leave. The warmth, the music, the feeling of belonging, it was hard to walk away from. Snoop stood near the exit, hugging people, shaking hands, taking in every thank you like a promise. When the final guest was gone, he stood in the middle of the now empty warehouse, the echoes of joy still bouncing off the walls. Tina and Jason joined him, tired but beaming. "We did it," Tina said quietly. Snoop nodded. "Yeah. And now, we keep going." The next morning, Los Angeles felt different. The entire city was buzzing. Social media lit up with photos and videos from the event. Plates of colorful food. Powerful performances. Unfiltered moments of joy. Hashtags like #TableForAll and #WeBelong were trending everywhere. But not all the attention was celebratory. Eminence Dining, the restaurant that had denied Snoop and his friends, woke up to a PR nightmare. Negative reviews flooded Yelp and Google. Customers shared their own stories of being mistreated, overlooked, dismissed. The spotlight had shifted. What once felt like an isolated moment of disrespect was now a national conversation. And a table for all? It was no longer just a dinner. It had become a movement. After being turned away because of how they looked, the backlash against Eminence Dining was swift and brutal. Their second public statement, cold, polished, and packed with empty corporate phrases, only made things worse. By the end of the day, former employees began speaking out. Anonymous testimonies exposed years of quiet discrimination, black guests being seated near kitchens, policies that favored preferred clientele, and management ignoring complaints. As news spread, the restaurant's pristine reputation began to crumble. Snoop, Tina, and Jason watched it all unfold. One former server claimed they were told to hide black diners if they couldn't reject them outright. "They dug their own grave," Jason muttered. "And you sparked it," Tina added. But Snoop knew this wasn't just about one restaurant. It was a symptom of something much deeper. The next day, the media took over. Major outlets ran interviews with former staff and mistreated customers. Footage from Table for All ran side by side with Eminence's hollow apologies. The contrast couldn't have been clearer. In one powerful segment, a chef recalled being told his food was too ethnic for the menu. Now working in his own community kitchen, he credited Snoop's event for giving him the courage to speak out. Eventually, the restaurant's owner stepped in front of cameras, offering a desperate apology outside his empty establishment. But it was too late. Social media lit up again, mocking the lack of accountability and the last-ditch PR spin. Jason burst into Snoop's house, holding up his phone. "They're done, man. Cancellations everywhere. Celebrities are even calling them out by name." A few days later, the announcement came: Eminence Dining was shutting down for good. But by then, the world had moved on, not from the story, but toward something bigger. Table for All had become a full-blown movement. Across the country, cities reached out, wanting to host their own dinners. People shared stories, organized events, and began reclaiming spaces where they once felt excluded. Tina, Snoop, and Jason built a blueprint for others to follow, from venue planning to community partnerships. The response was overwhelming. In Chicago, Atlanta, New York, Houston, dinners were held, each one shaped by local culture but bound by the same mission: a seat for everyone. It wasn't always easy. Critics said the movement was too political. Some venues backed out. But the backlash only fueled their fire. "Let them talk," Snoop said. "This ain't for them. It's for the people who know what it feels like to be shut out. And the people showed up in waves. A year after that first night in the warehouse, Snoop stood backstage at the largest table for all yet. Hundreds had gathered. The energy was electric. "You ready?" Tina asked. "Always," Snoop said. He took the stage. "A year ago, they told us we didn't belong," he said. "So we built our own table. And now, this table is for everyone." Cheers filled the room. The night unfolded in music, food, and connection. At one table, a mother said her daughter had found pride in her heritage through these dinners. At another, a young chef said he finally felt like he had a future in fine dining. As the night wound down, Snoop stood by the door, thanking guests one by one. After the last person left, he turned to Tina and Jason. "We did it. And we'll keep doing it," Jason replied. They stepped into the night, knowing the road ahead was long, but so was their purpose. Table for All wasn't just a dinner anymore. It was a promise. To fight. To build. To make sure that everywhere, for everyone, there's always a seat at the table. Thanks for watching. If this story moved you, hit subscribe, share it with your people, and drop a comment telling us where you're watching from. We'll see you in the next one.